It is I, Rasko, your host, and I am waiting for Disco, your co-host. It is episode 39, the Brewery World Cup with guest. The guest tonight, hopefully with no technical issues, it is Adam Graver of the Time for a Brew podcast. I had to think about that. Yeah. A totally unscripted show, honestly. And yes, here we are, live. We're going to be talking about that. But first of all, I'd like to talk about a tragedy. As you may or may not know, things have changed in the world of radio. Huey Morgan is no longer doing his Radio 2 show. This to me is a tragedy and a loss, as my style icon, sort of, is leaving radio. Hello. Oh, it's Time for a Brew. They're here. I think I'll invite them before Disco, because, Disco's late. I'm down. Oh, and Spatch Hot Day. Hey, good to see you. I've got the American Brown right here.
Hello.
Hello. Nice to meet you, mate.
Good evening. How are we?
Well, I'm good, mate. I'm good. Yourself?
Yeah, not bad.
That's great. That's great. You've got on here on time, unlike Disco, who I'm still waiting on.
What can I say? If anything, I'm punctual. That is it. That's what we're about.
It is indeed, mate. It is indeed. I run this show a bit like our Top Gear used to do it. Apparently, if you didn't show up to the production team on time, that was he who lost your segment for the show. So he's out. So welcome to the show. What you drinking there, pal?
I'm just pouring a Polly's IPA Spur 7.2 to kick things off. Lovely little beer.
Yeah?
Yeah, very nice. What about yourself?
Very nice. Well, at the back, I've got a bunch of Verdun and one Spatch Hot Day, the American Brown. Wanted to get my hands on some Green Duck Brewery, but just couldn't.
Yeah, I've drank a fair bit of Green Duck this week, to be fair. Yeah, it's not bad.
Oh, and Disco here, he wants to go live now. Right, I really hope this doesn't break. I'm going to invite him on. Fingers crossed, everyone.
See how it goes.
Okay, I usually sing a song called Waiting for Disco.
Yeah.
Waiting for Disco. He's invited.
Champion, there we go.
Greetings, gentlemen. Yes. Good to see you.
Indeed. Right, Disco, what you drinking there, pal?
I am drinking a beer from one of the finalists on the list. I've done a couple of different beers tonight from different breweries on the finals list. This one's from Thornbridge. It was the only Thornbridge I actually had left in the stash. I've got a couple of orders from them down. This is the Verse of the Berliner Weiss, which is kind of nice, handy, kind of sour little number to cut across some of the beers I've had earlier.
What have you had earlier?
So earlier I had the Pressure Drop, which actually beat Thornbridge in the quarterfinals. I can't memorise this. I've got it all on the screen here to remember stuff. Yeah, I had a Pressure Drop earlier, and then I had one from Abbeydale.
I saw that. I saw the black mask go up on your Instagram. So.
Yeah. So I haven't had too many from Abbeydale, but again, another fine Yorkshire brewery coming with some interesting stuff and some good beers.
Right. I'm going with the Verdant People, Money, Space and Time. 3.8%. It smells lovely.
It's a lovely beer.
I've not had it. In fact, I'm going to be honest. I think I've only had 2 or 3 Verdants in my entire life.
Well, that's 2 or 3 more than me, Rasko. I don't know whether that's shameful or scandalous. I don't think beer reviewers should be saying they haven't had any Verdant, but I've not had a Verdant beer until tonight. So I've got a Verdant beer lined up.
Which we can thank Adam for, who is, for people tuning in and watching, Adam is a podcaster / blogger / radio DJ.
bit of everything. Yeah, just yeah. Just love a beer, mate. I just love a beer.
Don't we all, mate? You're in the right hands here.
Yes, I suppose, but obviously, yeah, we're doing the beer reviewing thing as well and chucking stuff up online, so it's sort of a little bit of everything, really.
We've really got to thank you, because what you've done, I'll explain to the viewers and listeners. You've put together something quite intricate. You've put together a Brewery World Cup on Twitter.
Yeah.
And for a long while, at the beginning of the year, we were struggling with content or for ideas of what we're going to do. But you've given us something to talk about. So thank God the final's tomorrow. So that gives us something to talk about next week. After that, I don't know what we're going to do.
No.
But
it's a cool little thing. I mean, it's 3 years old now. This is for the third year of doing this. It's bigger than better than ever this year. And to get... When we kicked it off with over 500 breweries across the UK this year, like the reception that we got was just absolutely phenomenal. And the time, honestly, the time that goes into it, it's great that we'll talk about Green Duck and we'll talk about Verdun and we'll talk about Siren, I'm sure, and they've all really got on board. But I mean, it's hours and days of time to pull this thing together. But my God, it's brilliant, and it's great that. All I care about is the little bits of comments and tweets of people saying, yeah, I've ordered from someone I've not heard of before. That is exactly what it's for. And yeah, I credit to you guys for talking about it. I love tuning in and watching it. I've not been live every time, but it's been great watching someone dissect my little baby every week. It's great.
No, that's
appreciate it.
I mean, we know quite a lot of the breweries, I think, that have been on the list. Certainly, obviously, everything on the final. And it was great. I think in the earlier rounds, you said yourself about you seeing a lot of love for BerlinerWeisseBeer. My local brewery is literally just 4 miles up the road from me. And you said yourself, I want to check them out more, like from fight. So it's good for you finding out other breweries, again, across the country. And I mean, there's something like, 2,500 microbreweries and breweries across the country. So if you started with 500, is quite a chunk of that anyway.
Yeah, but we're still not touching the sides, and every single year that we do it, you get comments saying, why are these not involved? Why are these not involved? It's like, I can only get involved the people I know, but I mean, next year we're going to be touching 700-800, let's face it, and it's going to get bigger every year, and it's, I haven't
done this yet. I've got half a dozen suggestions.
Exactly.
I won't say that to you because I know you get quite a lot of that sort of stuff anyway. But yeah, I've got loads of stuff to chuck into the ring. Might not get anywhere past the first round, but that's part of the fun of it, isn't it? Putting those names in the hat.
That was always the ethos that we set the podcast up, and anyone who is either listening now or tuning in, like the point of the podcast was. It was never to promote Verdun to the world or the Wylands of the world. It was always to give a bit of a voice to the newbies and the kind of independents. And what we've kind of found is, yes, we've had some big boys on the podcast, the Brew by Numbers. We've had some big guys on, and it's that idea that you can listen to an episode and listen to beers that you trust and know, and then suddenly you're into a brewery you've never heard of, and you're listening to them talk about beer, and then you go and buy their beer, and that's always been the point, and the World Cup is just an extension of that, and it's just brilliant to see that over. I think we just topped 150,000 votes today across the tournament. It's brilliant. It's great.
Well, I mean, I was listening to your podcast, the interview you did with Neptune Brewery, the latest one that you did. And Neptune, again, is a brewery that I hadn't really heard of until this year, I think. And I actually put an order in with them because I saw a couple of beers on their website that I really liked. But I really enjoyed that episode because you were talking about beers that I recognise, not just from Neptune, but there was a section where you were talking about other beers as well. And it was great because obviously the reference was Thornbridge. And then again, I'm sorry, I've forgotten her name that you were speaking. It was Sue? Yeah, and she mentioned a beer in a pub in Liverpool from a brewery in Wakefield, and obviously you know the brewery Osset, Fernandez. And I was actually up in Liverpool for football, and I went to that pub, the dispensary in Liverpool, and we met the landlord after the game. We were actually playing Liverpool in the FA Cup, and it was that chocolate orange stout. And when she mentioned it, I had this little sort of like shudder of recognition. Is that I know what you're talking. I've had that beer, and it's really great chocolate orange was chocolate orange stout, wasn't it? I think Voodoo. So it's great that you can not only beers that you know, but obviously, like you say, also beers that you don't as well.
Yeah. Oh, of course.
Yeah, we've really got to thank you for that, because when we went through the list, there was names there I've not heard of and names I'd forgotten. So it was really quite an insightful episode for me. Hands up, I don't know Green Duck. I could not get my hands on them, but now I do. And, they're on my priority list to try them. What is it you have to do to get this competition running?
That's just a lot of love of beer. Like that's all it is. It's me loving beer, and I mean we always start with kind of regional heat. So you do a lot of regional research, and you kind of know the Bristol market, the South East market, and the Welsh market. Like it's just about going out, and I talk to a lot of people on Twitter and Instagram who are in them markets. Like it's certainly not all 100% curated by me. I've got some trusted bloggers and trusted people. I go, guys, who's hot in your area, and they send me a list, and we put it up that way. But it's at the end of the day, I mean, I've got some brilliant bottle shops in York with House of Travelling Madness who they're going to tell me who are killing it in their areas. But I want this to feature every brewery in the UK if it could. I don't know everyone. I would love to know everyone, and we'll talk about Green Duck, I'm sure. And there's a lot of people on Twitter that are saying this is a cat thing, and yes, it is a cat thing, and there is a cat that has retweeted everything that has gone out, and they messaged me yesterday and kind of apologised and put their hands up and said, I'm kind of sorry that we've hijacked this thing with a cat. And I went, do you know what, guys? I don't care, because this thing, you are an independent, tiny little brewery in Stourbridge that will have had hundreds of orders on the back of this thing, and that is exactly what it is about, 100%. And yeah, it's just great fun pulling together. Like it really is great fun. Like going and looking at who's killing it in the Southeast, in the Southwest, in the Northeast, and the Northwest, and it just makes you really appreciate the beer scene we've got in the UK, like which is just phenomenal. It really is.
Yeah, it's almost the way it goes. Polls and stuff like that, and stuff on the internet. I mean, it is open to being hijacked is kind of the right word, but hijacked in a good way, especially in this instance. That if you can mobilise, I mean, what 15, 16, 1700 people on your side against especially well-known people like Siren and Verdant, Thornbridge, it's only a good thing, really, I suppose.
Yeah, I mean, Siren, Thornbridge, Pilot, you've even got Verdant in the final. They don't need any support in getting orders. Let's face it. We all know them. We all order from them very regularly. But the fact that they continue to get involved in this, and the banter, so to speak, on Twitter is just brilliant. And Green Duck have played a blinder, and I hope it really, really supports them and helps them in the future. I really do, because they're nice people. They are coming on my podcast for the 50th episode. So if you are a podcast listener, great, come and tune into the Green Duck episode. But all it's about is I've promoted 526 breweries over the last 2 months. If someone's made one order with one new brewery that they've not heard of, that is the point of it, and that's all it is. And it takes a few hours of my time, but it's all good fun. It's all good fun. And thank you guys for promoting it and chatting about it. It's great.
No, that's exactly what we say about what we're doing. Is like sometimes I sort of avoid some of the bigger guys. Like I say, I've not drunk Verdant before because I've sort of avoided them. But when I'm ordering beers, I want to order some of the smaller, more interesting breweries from across the country. And in the last year, that's been so much more accessible as well. And the good thing about Green Duck is I think they've matched the Sirens and the Verdants for social media content, and they've done that banter thing really well. And I think Siren and Pilot are probably like almost the kings of Twitter banter and putting fun pictures out and stuff like that. And I think Green Duck have kind of matched them in a way.
And I think, I'm sure you guys have come up against it as well, and being beer reviewers, like beer Twitter can be a bit toxic and kind of have a lot of negativity associated with it. I think no one's no one's going to disagree with that. It's nice just to have a bit of light-hearted fun about beer. Beer is about having fun with good people and having great experiences with your friends and your family. And I think just bringing a little bit of light on that is so important, especially, I'm sure you guys have talked about cloud water going in supermarkets and all the crap that's on Twitter at the moment. And you think, let's just relax and chat about beer like how it should be, which is just with a few mates drinking great beer, and that's what we try and bring to the party. That's what the podcast will always be about. So, cheers to that, I suppose.
Yeah, absolutely.
What happened with Cloudwater?
Yeah, is Cloudwater in the news at the moment, or something big happened with them?
What's going on? Who are they?
Well,
they got knocked out of this thing so early. I'm joking. I'm going to pieces.
Well, that's an example, wasn't it? They got beaten. Was it like, I think it was Blackjack?
Yeah, Blackjack dumped them out, and then Green Duck dumped Blackjack out. It was true.
Well, I mean, if I got organised earlier, I looked at Green Duck's website earlier in the week, and there was a couple of really good beers on there. Like, I tend to go towards like the darker beers, so there was a mild and a couple of porters and stouts on Green Duck. And the reason I didn't pull the trigger is because they'd actually sold out of the honey chocolate stout. It was the one that stood out for me. If I thought about it, I would have just ordered it, and I probably would have got them in before tonight, and I could have drunk them tonight as well. But I think
I guiltily drank them ahead of the evening, ahead of the final. But the Amaretti Mild is a stunning beer. It's even slightly like a mild. It is phenomenal, I have to say. It really, really is.
Sorry, Rasko, go on, mate. I'm jumping in here.
No, you go right ahead, mate. I'm happy listening. It's all good stuff. I will say,
I was vaguely aware of Green Duck again only this year because on Instagram, I don't know if you've seen Craft Beer Pinup, who's based in sort of Stourbridge Way, Birmingham Way. She did an interview with Green Duck, so I was aware of their brewery rather than their beers. So when it sort of popped up on your poll, it's like, oh, actually, I've heard of them, and then to see the snowball of effect of what they brought to the poll was brilliant.
Completely unexpected.
I must say, I have counted Green Duck out several times, and the fact that they're here in the final is tremendous. It's beautiful. I honestly thought Pressure Drop were going to win this. I predicted it. I said Pressure Drop are going to win this, and they're not there. They're not even in the final. And smart money is that Green Duck will lose tomorrow, but they've battled against it so many times. I wouldn't want to take that bet. In fact, I've not voted in this simply because I don't want to know what the results are. Don't want to know until tomorrow.
So I think for everything I love about Verdant, I think Verdant are one of the UK's best breweries. They got extremely lucky, and this isn't anything against Verdant, but Wylam didn't, or whether they forgot to or they just weren't on it, but Wylam didn't retweet the semi-final, and Wylam are brilliant on social media. I think we'd have had a very close final if it had been Wylam versus Green Duck. I think the Verdant guys are great, but they just don't have the following to topple these guys tomorrow, and Green Duck are going to win it, and I'm going to have to go down there and present the trophy and be really humble about this cat that has driven them to win. But what a great bit of fun that they have had. And I'm just looking at Green Duck now. You're talking, they've got close to 5,200 followers now. They started this on less than 4,000. Like they have gone through the roof, like in terms of people finding that brewery, and hopefully, I genuinely hope it's turned into orders for the guys, because it's just brilliant. And they've gone toe to toe with Pilot, who were last year's winners, Siren, who were last year's runners up. Like, they haven't done it the easy way. So hats off to the guys. And do you know what? I'd have been extremely. I feel like I'm hijacking your show here, but I would have been extremely pissed off if their beer wasn't good. But I've now this week drank 4 of their beers, and been so impressed. So I don't care, because their beer is awesome. That beer is awesome, so they absolutely deserve it.
Okay, that's great. I just got one question. There's a brewery we're championing called Mad Yank. Were they ever in the competition, or like in the early stages?
No, they weren't. No, I don't think they were. In the London heats, we didn't see them again. But it's like Adam said earlier. It's like it started with 526, and there's still another 2,000 to go. So
fair enough. If you want to get your hands on some Perryvale, mate, we might be able to help you out, because we've got connections with them. Just link us up with a message after this, and we'll do our best for you.
Yeah. Perryvale. Even Mad Yank, I'm looking at now. It looks like hell of a shot. Lemon raspberry white chocolate pale. That's right on my street. Yeah, that's awesome.
So I mean, Perryvale, like, because we mentioned, is they haven't got national coverage yet because of their size, but they're really quite big in that Ealing kind of north, like West London area, and it's only 4 miles down the road. I'm northwest London, but they haven't quite got national. They have got a website, and they were doing deliveries in the local area, but they haven't quite got national yet. But we're championing them because they do come out with some really interesting beers. They've got like a core range, but they've also got some like unusual beers, some like traditional recipes on like a monthly basis.
Yeah, that's good.
I was surprised to see them where they were in the competition. You know, they went toe to toe with some big ones, and fair play to them just to get where they were.
That's the genuine beauty of it. I mean, tomorrow's podcast that'll go out is with a brewery called Wilderness down in Wales, and he just said to me on the podcast, the orders, honestly, since putting his brewery in this thing, have gone through the roof. And all he does is 750 ml saisons. It's a very niche buddy market, let's face it. He said we just sold out. We sold out, and within minutes of this thing they went toe to toe with Tiny Rebel in the group, and people just bought the beer. And it was just great, and that's exactly what it's about. It's nothing to do with me. Like, there's no vanity or ego attached to me. It's purely about just educating people that there are some brilliant breweries across the entire UK, and I think it's really pertinent that you guys, obviously, you're in a very different market to me down south versus up north, and I think the one thing that's become really clear is that beer doesn't get out of the area, or get out of the area that you're in. And again, it doesn't get out of my area. And Birmingham and Stourbridge, where Green Duck are, is a huge example. Like Mild doesn't seem to travel across the UK at all. So it's just great to bring a bit of exposure for regions across the UK that you might not get in your bottle shops and in kind of your breweries, and go, do you know what, I'm going to give that a try. And that's all it's about. It absolutely is.
Well, I think that's a very good point, Adam. I mean, I don't know, like in the last year, I think that's changed. It certainly has for me, but again, I can't speak for outside of my bubble. So how do you see about it's changed in the last year? Because I've been so much more exposed to more regional breweries. And in fact, Yorkshire is probably the biggest area that I ordered from, that I probably wouldn't have noticed. I mean, there's a lot of breweries that I do know about from Yorkshire, but I've ordered a lot more that I wouldn't have done apart from lockdown. Do you perceive that as well? Like you're being aware of a lot more regional away from your region?
I think so, because so beer is very, whether we drink cask or keg beer is very cask driven still in terms of what gets served in pubs, and cask beer is regional. I would never get where I am a Fuller's, or Fuller's doesn't get here at all, and you kind of talk to someone in London, that's alien. You think Fuller's is everywhere. We get Offset, we get kind of Leeds based breweries. I think being away from pubs, it's reduced that reliance on regional kind of touch, so to speak. And I think I've discovered breweries from Scotland, from Wales, that I would never ever have touched in the last year, because everyone's gone online, everyone's got the shop, and I just think it's absolutely phenomenal what's happened in the last year. Whether it will continue is the big question now, because in the last, well, even today, like I've been down as many people can probably tell, if you're watching and you know me, I've been drinking since 12 o'clock today, and all I've been drinking is pints of Timothy Taylor Landlord, pints of Theakston's Best, and Yorkshire Blonde from Oxford. Like, I've gone back to my cask world, drinking what I know from my region because that's what's served. And it'll be really interesting if we drop back into that kind of trend of what's available readily in the pubs. And I would 100% encourage pubs to try and buy a few kegs or a few casks from a bit further afield, because there's some serious talent out there. But yeah, it's interesting, and I like it.
It's probably a little bit different for me, say, than Rasko, because prior to lockdown, I get out and about the country a lot. I mean, one of my big things is travelling, and being a football fan, I get to go to a lot of slightly random towns across the country, being a football town. So, fan. So, like I say, I know Osset only from going to Liverpool. So during lockdown, I've looked at Osset's brewery and whether I can get a beer out, especially looking at that Voodoo, and also a lot of other, smaller breweries from various regions. I don't know how that works for everybody, whether everybody's so aware of like more regional breweries, and also how it's worked for social media being aware of more breweries.
Yeah, I mean, all I can say, I mean, you see them. I think the last 12 months we've seen a lot more one-off brews, kind of, stuff people have put out in can, and they'll never brew again. And they've tried to get the quick order, the quick sellout, and go, boom, yeah, we did that beer and that was brilliant, and it sold out. And a lot of the birthday beers that we've seen in the last year have done that. Normally, like a birthday takeover will be a phenomenal range of cask beers or keg beers that go in 100 bars, but they've had to go for that big kind of kill. And obviously the price of a 440 can has gone up in the last 12 months. Jesus Christ, what we're paying for beer has absolutely gone up. But thank God we've got such a diverse scene. The lager scene in the UK has gone through the roof in the last 12 months. The dipper, the tipper, it's a phenomenal scene that we've got access to. And I don't
even I've done craft lagers. I've ordered craft lagers in this last year that I probably wouldn't have done beforehand. I think.
Yeah.
I mean, talking of like regional travelers, so you're based in York.
Yeah.
Which is a great town for a drink, to be fair. There's so many options. I've been there probably for 5 years. Again, I last went there for football, so you've got just getting off the train there to York Tap, and just you don't even have to go very far getting off the train in York to get a decent beer. We never really got much further than like the Maltings, the pub just up the road from the station. But what would be your like top tips in York itself, like for a beer? There's probably stuff I don't know because I've not been to that many, but I know it's a good city for a drink.
Yeah, I mean, it is a great city for a drink, and I'm not biased towards anyone. No one sponsors me or anything, so this isn't endorsed, don't worry.
I don't mind if it is. If it's a good heads up, I don't mind if it is endorsed.
It's really hard to look past what the guys at Brew York are doing, just fundamentally as not just a brewery but as a bar, and the culture that they have created. It's a community tap room. It's not some like Brew York are going to become in the next couple of years one of Britain's biggest breweries. Like, they absolutely are. They've just moved out of York in terms of their brewing operation, and they've done a hell of a job moving it out there to outside the city. But every time you go there, it's friendly. I take my girlfriend, I take my friends, I take my family to that tap room, and it's a warm atmosphere. With in the normal times, you're talking a beer hall with 40 keg lines and 10 cask lines. It's a hell of a place to go and drink beer and eat food and have a good time. So it's hard to look past Brew York. But you mentioned the Maltings. Maltings, one of the best real ale pubs without a doubt. Outside of that, you're looking at somewhere like the Rook and Gaskell. So the Rook and Gaskell is a great pub that nobody really knows has a brewery underneath in the cellar. So they pour tank fresh beer from their kegs, which is a craft brewery in the cellar, and it's really cool. The Three Non-Beards Brewery is the actual name of the brewery. That not many people knows there, but even if you're not drinking that, they've got another 12 keg lines, which you will not pay more than $3.50 for a pint on any keg line they ever sell. And you're talking Verdant, you're talking Polly's, you're talking Abbeydoe, you're talking every brilliant brewery, and it's a hell of a boozer. It's a great boozer. Boozer is what it is. So Rook and Gaskell, Brew York, and if I was to pick one more, I would obviously pick my local, which is the Crooked Tap. So it's Crooked Brew Co, who are based just out of Leeds. But I remember last Monday when it opened, there was 6 keg lines on, and we had Steady Rolling Man, we had a Polly's, we had a Beak, we had we had Neck Oil from Beavertown, we had two cast lines from them, and another keg line of one of their own. And it's just a great community pub. We've got the football team, we've got a book club, we've got everything. That is a proper boozer, as it should be, for the people, by the people. So yeah, York's brilliant. I could talk about York for a long time, and yeah. Any tips? Just message me, guys.
Yeah, I'm more than happy to let you do that, because, like I say, you haven't gone to York, and that's just York. I could spend a week in York drinking in York, let alone the wider Yorkshire area, having ordered so many different breweries from Yorkshire. Are you a York City fan yourself?
Leeds United through and through. I'm a Leeds man.
That's fair enough. I mean, that's a whole different conversation, talking about beers in Leeds, I guess. I've only ever briefly passed through Leeds and never really too much stopped for a beer.
The Leeds scene is disgustingly good. I mean, it just is. I mean, tomorrow I'm heading to Amity. I don't know if you've come across Amity, really brand new, fresh brewery. So I'm heading over there to see Russ tomorrow for a few beers. Out in Farsley, literally opposite Farsley Celtic Football Club. If you're a non-league sport, you'll know Farsley Celtic. But
I know the name. I've never been. I mean, I went to Guiseley for a random game because we got cheap train tickets, and my mate's a big non-league fan, so we went to Guiseley. So we changed at Leeds, but never got a chance to stop for a beer there. And then the game was bloody called off. It was in January, so we just got local beers.
No, I'm looking forward to getting to Amity. I mean, they're only a year old, and they've already done. You're talking collabs with Thornbridge in the last Thornbridge Beer Club. Russ came on the podcast. Rich came on the podcast, and the beers were just outstanding. Like, the quality of the beers coming out of that place. And then you look at wider Leeds. You've got North Brew Co. just moved out to Springwell, massive brewery out there. You've got the Monk. You've got Wild Child. Yeah, it's just phenomenal.
I've not even looked at. I'm not even. Wild Child was one I thought I would actually get an order from, and I've just because of all the other breweries in Yorkshire that have caught my eye, and Wild Child got some really good stouts going on.
Great.
Good dessert beers.
What is it you got there, Adam? Mate, you're about to open up. You mind me asking?
So I've just gone for a dipper from Unbarred down in Brighton, actually.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
I know.
Zach and Mosaic, Simcoe, Big Secret, great brewery. Had them on the podcast really early on last year, but great guys. Yeah, really great brewery.
Yeah, I've opened up Solid State by Verdant, 6.5% IPA. It's very similar, but a bit stronger than the People, Space and Time. Very nice. I mean, very smooth flavors. Not much bitterness and much. Very hints of bitter. Really enjoyable. I could neck these very easily, but I won't because I've got a show.
I was going to say, I feel like I'm hijacking your show. I mean, you must normally talk about things other than me and my show, obviously. So what's the normal format? I'll rip and I'll fit in.
You're not absolutely not hijacking, because we've said you're a special guest, and you are. And normally, what me and Rasko do is just like we're meeting at a pub. And I feel so far it is like if we just met at a York Tap and had a couple of beers, we have all your pride, blah blah blah. We just have a chat about beer and general stuff in the scene. Sometimes we have a particular theme. It has just been this month. We haven't just been talking about World Cup of beers. To be
Of
fair,
course,
we
of course, of
mention
course.
it and move
Yeah.
on.
Well, before anyone, came into the show and I opened it up, I was telling the audience how deeply upset I am, at the tragic event that I've heard on radio that Huey Morgan is leaving Radio 2. My style guru, my guide, is leaving Radio 2, and I'm completely depressed and upset about that. And I'm not sure how I'm going to carry on.
Well, yeah, I'm assuming he's going somewhere else and still doing music. He's not leaving entirely, but
He's on 6 Music still, but his Radio 2 show's better. I do have some shout-outs to do. We've been in touch with another podcaster, the Beer Beauty, who is very approachable, very nice. She's got her own podcast, and it is joyful and lovely. I recommend it to anyone out there.
It's not as good as mine. I'm joking.
And I'm just going to carry on. And our mate, Jim, the journalist / researcher / cameraman, he's done an article for Al Jazeera. He's gone back to Al Jazeera for one time only, or maybe more, and he's written an article about the European Super League and where it all fell apart and why. Check it out. I'll drop a link to it. He did a stand-in for me a couple of weeks ago, and he is arguably the and in Rasko and Disco, so please check that out.
great show. I just noticed in the comments, Thomas from Window Beer Reviews. Hello, thanks for looking in again. Good to see us up.
Yes. I do have one other thing. Last week when we talked about that whole Cloudwater business, I did say, Cloudwater, you deserve, what you're getting. And I wasn't saying you never deserve abuse online, but you do deserve a little bit of criticism, in some ways, but you don't deserve, ever will I condone abuse online. No. You do that, bye-bye. You ever do that on my show? You've gone before you started.
Adam, have you rushed out to Tesco's to get the new Cloudwater stuff?
I tried. You know what? Instagram is really starting to cheese me in some ways, because I was having a bit of dialogue with, I believe, Johnny Garrett from the Craft Beer channel, and he mentioned Brooklyn lagers in Tesco. So I popped by after a successful day of work. I popped by Tesco to get the Cloudwater beer. It's not there. And I picked up some Brooklyn. And I did this whole thing about reminiscing about Brooklyn. I did this nice, big, long post on Instagram. And it's got a lot of clicks, but I don't think anyone's read it. It's just Instagram.
Well, I think it was Brad that made that comment, Rasko. I think it was Brad because he's always wearing the Brooklyn Lager T-shirt, so I think he's big into the Brooklyn Lager. I mean, it might well have been Johnny, but I think it was Brad that made that comment. Sorry, Adam, have you got Tesco to get the Cloudwater stuff?
No, I've not rushed down, to be honest. And, I don't have a view on it. I wish I had a view on it. I absolutely love what they're doing, and I think at the end of the day, yes, some people will say they've hidden behind the minority breweries, but my God, if I can go down to Tesco tomorrow and buy a Queer Brewing beer or a Rock Leopard beer, I'm very happy doing so. I think that without Twitter, this would go under the radar, and it would just be seen as a massive positive to the beer industry that Cloudwater are doing beers in Tesco. So I've massively taken it with a pinch of salt, and I think it's brilliant that we can do this, as long as. And again, we said it last night down the Crooked Tap, which is my kind of main bottle shop as well. Like on the same day they announced the £10 pack of beers, which are with the minority breweries, I spent £20 on their latest tipper and their new kind of chocolatier barrel aged. That's 2 beers that cost me £20. It's not there for beer drinkers, I would say. I think beer drinkers are always going to appreciate Cloudwater's special stuff because it is phenomenal, and they are one of the best breweries in Britain. As long as it doesn't cut out the bottle shops, I'm absolutely fine with it. Absolutely fine with it. to be honest.
Yeah, I think that's part of the argument is that they might, but there's always a 50-50 on the argument. Some people say they will, some people say they won't. Some people say, well, if you try it in Tesco's, then you'll go and find it in independent bottle shops and or direct, because they've still got direct sales. But some people say it's like there's also an argument that if you're an average Tesco shopper and you're buying beers at effectively £2.50, and then you go to the website and find out quid, you'll be like, oh, well, you haven't lost any sales then, because your £2.50 a pint customer isn't going to buy it £6. Yeah. So it probably doesn't really matter. The person who does buy it £6 is still going to buy your £6 beers, probably. So it's sort of, it's 6 of one, half a dozen the other. Again, having said about not having had Verdant, I've not had Cloudwater since me and Rasko went to their tap room in London and had a flight of thirds, and we had Purple Bobbins, which I think was probably about £8 a pint at that point.
Yeah.
So I don't do Cloudwater, not because of any of this Tesco stuff or the price point. Mostly a bit of price and a bit of they don't quite produce beers I like drinking, because I'm not fussed on IPAs and dippers so much.
Look, I mean, the reason people have opposed Cloudwater doing what they've done so much is nothing to do with the beer. It's nothing to do with the breweries they've collabed with. It's due to Cloudwater's continual kind of backing of cold chain, and it's the fact that the supermarket's going to be storing this on a normal shelf. And at the end of the day, that was 2015 with their first comments on that. If Cloudwater can bring light on 4 minority breweries for the sake of storing 4 beers on a shelf out of the 500 they're going to brew a year. For me, it genuinely doesn't matter. Like it really doesn't. And you can go into a Tesco and no one cares that Pilsner or Kell is served that way. No one cares that Budweiser is served in that way. And you can talk about Bud as a commodity beer in the UK. It's a lager that is seriously appreciated across the world. That shouldn't be stored on a shelf. That should be cold chain. And that's why, to me, I think they've made a ballsy move and a great move. And I think in about 6 months we'll have all forgotten about it, and it'll all be absolutely fine.
I think I forgot about it on Sunday night with the announcement of the European Super League, to be honest. But, I think those are great points. And, I wish everyone well. I've had quite a bit of eco, and I've said it many times. I wish them well. I'm a sucker for smoked drinks, and they make a smoked porter, which I quite like. So, fair play to everyone. Good luck. My prediction still stands. I do believe this will be the beginning of a downward slope for Cloudwater's quality. I still think they're going to be around, but the quality is going to start to slide, and prove me wrong. I mean, come on. Well, I'm talking from a guy who's got a university degree in beer and economics from the University of Saturn. Honestly.
What I'd say to that is I'm not going to try and disagree or anything, but so Vocation are obviously in Morrison's, and Vocation are a brewery very close to my heart, and I think they're absolutely phenomenal. Life and Death is in Morrison's. You've got Heart and Soul in Morrison's. I still think they produce the best beers in the UK when it comes away from their barrel-aged stuff and their stouts. And I just can't ever imagine Cloudwater coming away from the quality. And it's been contract brewed to Brewdog. It's almost been kind of they've almost taken that away from their brewery, because they go, we actually don't want to be associated with this, but we're going to put a label on it because it might look good in the long run. But in the same week, Vault City have gone into Tesco. You've got Brew by Numbers gone into Tesco, and that hasn't really hit the mark like Cloudwater because of the cold chain stuff. And I think if we can make beer more accessible to people, that's never ever a negative, ever. And fair play to them for doing what they're doing.
If I can do a neat segue there, Adam, I probably wouldn't have bought Verdant unless we've been doing this and having this discussion, and as our friend Monochrome Craft says there, yes, this is Lightbulb from Verdant, and it's a bit of a a Gerald Ratner-esque thing probably for a beer reviewer to say I've never drunk Verdant before, as far as I'm aware. So this is my first effort with Verdant.
So I'm pretty interested because Verdant are probably staple of what I drink day to day. But question to both of you: what do you tend to drink either at home or in the pubs? Like, what's the for you guys? Because it's clearly very different to me, who I think I'm injected with Verdant. Like, I really am, and I'm 200 miles away from the fucking place. So I'm really interested.
That's a multi-part question, and I've got a multi-part answer for it because I don't tend to have anything specific, especially in the last year where I've just been ordering stuff that interests me and stuff that I can put out as content and talk about and review. I very rarely got a beer in just to have as a staple, as a go-to. I have a bit more recently. Separate to that, the reason I've not had a Verdant before is much the same as I've not drunk Daya before, and much the same as I haven't drunk Cloudwater since we went to their tap room. Because I always imagine, because we all have different beer palates and we all have different favourite beers. And Rasko gets fed up with me saying this. Pale ales, IPAs and dippers are just not my thing because I don't like beers that focus on hops. I don't like hoppier beers. I generally gravitate towards your darker beers, your porters and stouts, although I do, especially now beer reviewing, I do try the pale ales and do try the IPAs. And it's just that big, it's that initial hoppy hit that I don't like, that kind of, and I don't like grapefruit. So Citra hops, I cannot stand because there's that big grapefruit hit. And I've said it before, and again, it's that sort of it's probably a bit of a bad thing to say as a beer reviewer, but I don't say that makes it a bad beer. I can tell if it's a decent beer. It's just not my flavour palette. So I've generally stayed away from your Verdants and your Cloudwaters and your Dayas because of that hop thing. But that said, to answer your question, Adam, sorry, about what I sort of go towards. Recently, one of my major breweries that I bought a lot of is Brass Castle up in Malton. I love Brass Castle to bits. I recently bought a lot. I went back for this one, and I love talking about this. It's the one they got called Heretic. It never comes out well.
Yeah, Belter. Belter.
Saffron, cracked black pepper, Belgian blonde. So probably your blonde ales and your golden ales, I go through a bit more because they're less about the hop content and more about the taste. And that one tastes of black pepper, which is insane, but it's also got that kind of banana Hefeweizen kind of taste in it as well.
Brass Castle are on fire at the moment. I have to say, I assume my missus is listening to me in the next room. She's not tuned in, but she's listening to me. And I remember coming back. So Brass Castle do a beer festival with Bad CWO called Beer Town. It's the best fucking beer festival in the world. It must have been the 2019 edition. I was working the bar, so I decided to volunteer rather than go, and I worked it. I got back from Malton to York, genuinely no recollection of how that trip happened, and got back home.
Never happened for us. Never happened for us. God knows what happened, and obviously it's a pretty seasoned beer drinker, not being funny. Leanne, bless her, said to me for the first time, "You're drunk, aren't you?" I went, yes I am. What? How have you noticed? She went, "You look like shit." And I genuinely so what happened, I got there and Phil runs Brass Castle, and Phil gave me a glass and he basically went, "That's yours, you do what you want with it today." I saw that as a challenge, and basically worked my way through the cask bar, worked my way through the keg bar, and it was an absolute beauty of a day. But my God, yeah, what a great brewery, Brass Castle.
I've just had another guest star because Rasko just recently this week got a cat, and your cat has just wandered across the back there.
Yeah.
My cat's on my lap. she will eventually. She might get up and wander past, but yeah, Brass Castle, I love it because they got a great. I mean, we knew them from Great British Beer Festival down in London like a few years ago with Bad Kitty. It's always on there, and then again in last year of the lockdown, I just looked on their website and there was so much other good stuff. They got a great core range and bringing out some regular, monthly, random stuff. I've got another. Hopefully, maybe putting another order in on Monday. They've got like a carrot pale ale at the moment.
Yeah. Right, a parrot or whatever. Yeah, sorry.
We've got buckwheat.
Did you have the Beat Me Underwater, the seaweed beer?
Seaweed Saber. That was lovely. Really nice.
Bottom.
Yeah. And they do some good stuff with chocolate stouts as well. They bring some heavy stuff out there. I've had a few of them. I wasn't so keen on the Elvis impersonator, the peanut butter and stout, because I think peanut butter stout is a difficult one to pull off, and it was all right, but it wasn't amazing compared to some of their other stuff. But yeah, I do like Brass Castle.
Yep.
Yeah. So for me, me and Disco live on opposite sides of London. He's up in suburbs of the north in Harrow, and I'm down in Croydon. But basically, down in Croydon, I've got 4 breweries here. And I've got Anspach Hobday, their main brewery, is here. I've got Signal, I've got Kronks, who I noticed were in the competition. Only got 6% of the vote in the league, the table they were in. But fair play, it was good to them. And you've got another one, so small, that I've been in touch with twice. I'm now forgetting remember the name. Coalition Brewery, that's it. So for me, when lockdown kicked off, I just went into make as much loud noise as possible to try and support the diverse beer culture we've got and pubs. We did that with supporting a crowdfunding operation for the Oval Tavern in Croydon, a lovely community pub, brilliant music scene. It also won our first competition for us. And we did a talk about the best pubs we can think of, and we won a competition on that.
That's right. So Rasko, you've been dipping in and out a little bit there, like there's like dodgy connection there. But are you talking about this glass that I won?
Yes, I am. And Adam, you appear to have a bit of some compliments coming through in the comments. But Adam's hot X.
Well, evidently warm. I had to set my jumper off. Actually, I was quite hot, so I'll take it.
Fair enough. So, for me, for what we've been doing, we started the stream almost a year ago now, and it's just about we don't do politics on the show, but we had the rant about the government a fair bit. Rasko rant column. My LBC moment, as I sometimes refer to it. And
Rasko rant. I'm going to let you rant.
Go ahead, right? And so that's what basically we do. We just talk about beer, pubs, and life, and that's it. For me, one of my favourite Anspach Hobday are one of my favourite breweries, and I was quite happy to see them go up. I'm a bit surprised they went out where they did, but maybe I'm biased. But Mad Yank is maybe one of my favourite breweries, which I'm in. And they changed my entire perspective on porters and stouts. I was always convinced it had to have a thick body on it, and they changed my perception on that. They produce some really and they haven't got a thick body, and I'm like, whoa, how can this be so good and not be that thick? So they got Beer of the Year nomination. They got Brewery of the Year off me last year, and they've got a Beer of the Year nomination now, even this year. So yeah, that's it in a nutshell for us. We're going to continue to offer our loud support in our own unique way. For as long as we can, or we get sick at each other and throw pint glasses at each other, which could happen sometimes. We don't agree on much, me and Disco, if I'm honest. I'm not saying that because he's left the screen. I'll happily say it when he comes back. We do game shows. We play Just a Minute on this show. We get highly competitive about it.
You should have warned me. If we're playing Just a Minute, I'd have had a lot less beer than I would have today.
We are due a game.
We don't have to, but
I was 10 pints of Theakston's best down like before I even moved on. So maybe not. But
Theakston's best.
There was a comment from Monochrome Craft. Verdun produced some excellent stouts and porters, and the next one I do have is the Export Stouts. I didn't get their porter. I'm kind of regretting that now, but hey, it is what it is. Question
I don't know.
to you.
You know what? Like, I think that's right. They do. I haven't actually got round to getting their porters either, but like a pale ale, that's very drinkable. It's got a nice kind of sherbety, sort of a bit of lemony kind of thing. Hasn't got citra in it. That's probably why I like it. I wouldn't say I was a massive convert, but yeah, that's actually quite a drinkable pale ale. I'm quite pleased with that actually. I got this from my local bottle shop, Beer Asylum over in Pinner, and they had a couple of other versions. This one was like £4.40. They had a £5.50 and a £6.50 one, and I'm like, I'm gonna not do that just in case I don't like it, but I'm quite pleased with this one, £4.40.
Nice.
Quite nice tasting pale ale.
So, question to you, Adam. I noticed that the competition's gone on longer than you have been podcasting. Is the podcasting a result of lockdown, or?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a fair lot of that. I'm really interested in the amount of people you got on. I was just listening to it before we came on. I noticed you had the guys from the Beer O'Clock Show on there. How do you get these quality, people to be on your show?
How? I don't do any outreach, which is nice. Now they come to me and that they want to be on it, and a lot of it's word of mouth. I mean, the beer community is the beer community is so strong in that you get some like we had, literally episode 1 I had Brew York. Like you're talking a brilliant brewery who then spread the word and say you need to get on this podcast. And the podcast has changed quite a lot over the years, and I say over the years, over the last year. We've only been going a year. But I always say at the end, and obviously we talk a lot off air to the brewers and the owners, and I go, who do you recommend, and have you got any contacts? And I just get in touch with people on the back of that, and it's just a great little community. Like the beer community is fantastic, and some of the people for me, like my highlight, if anyone asks me like what in year 1 what the highlight is, I mean, to talk to Ale Farm in Denmark, like how they came across my podcast, I will never know. And the podcast is consistently in the top 10 in food and drink in Denmark. Like people still love the podcast in Denmark on the back of the Ale Farm episode, which is just brilliant. It genuinely is. But the fact that I would send, and I've genuinely, and there's a lot of beer influencers out there and beer podcasters and beer writers and all this kind of thing, who think they're the bee's knees and the dog's bollocks and all that kind of crap. I've never asked for a free beer in my life, and I never will ask for a free beer in my life, and that is not what I do this for. It isn't. It's to talk to people about beer. And to be sent fresh beers free from the Denmark Copenhagen brewery from Ale Farm is something I will never forget. Like, you're talking fresh beer in the post, cold chain from Denmark all the way to the UK. I will never forget that, and we've already got plans for our 100th episode in 50 weeks' time. Like, we're already building for that. People just love it because the reason I genuinely believe my podcast is good is there's a lot of beer that are amazing as well, but they talk about beer, they talk about the product, they talk about just general crap, which is fine, but mine's all about the people and like the person on the podcast. It's about their ultimate bar. It's about their music choices. It's about their experience of beer. I think that's what makes it a little bit different, and it's why, you know, I suppose in reality I could do my podcast episode with 10 people who work for the same brewery, and you'd get a different episode, and that's the kind of beauty of it. And people quite like the episode podcast, so it's cool. I love it.
I'm going to confess, I didn't listen to your podcast until I found out about a competition. It was Disco who got me onto it, and I don't listen to many beer podcasts, but you are my frequent listening list. I'm loving what you're doing, mate. Honestly, please continue. That's all I can say to you. And if you need any consultancy advice, you know, me and Disco are, you know, available anytime. You may not be in for the free stuff, but we are.
We'll get you on. We'll do the ultimate bar. We'll do it how we should. We'll have a good episode.
I was going to say, you know, could you not like do the Brewery World Cup thing like in rotation? Like 1 year I'll do the Brewery World Cup, and next year I'll do the ultimate pub in the UK, or was that logistically doable?
Potentially.
Yeah. All right. Well, if you need any researchers, let us know.
Loads of options and possibilities, isn't there? You could do, I mean, you could do international, you could do take it across the UK, but you could take it out the UK and do international. That would just be too much.
there's so many. I mean, I genuinely take this global and do it as a proper World Cup. There's a lot of things that need to go into that to do it. I think the next step in the podcast is, obviously anyone who has listened to it will know the brewers or the owners have to pick a 5-line bar. So you get 5 lines, and you have to pick your ultimate lager, your ultimate pale, your ultimate stout, your ultimate cask, and all this kind of stuff. And we've already got plans in for episode 100, which will be in about 50 weeks' time, to get all my favourite guests on it. We're going to fill a fridge, so they're going to get 7 cans or bottles each in the fridge, and we're going to do an epic episode. So they've already picked their bar, their 5 lines, but then they're going to get to build this ultimate beer fridge, which will be pretty cool, and I can't wait for that. But we're a long way away. But no, I would love to. Obviously, we're on live at the moment, but if you guys want to come on and build your ultimate bar and chat about some beers, I would love to have you on. It'd be a great episode.
I mean, turning it round, have you ever had to answer that question yourself? If you did, what would be the answer?
I've never had to answer it. I'm not going to give anything away, because there is another certain beer podcast that I'm going to be on at some point this year, and I'm going to have to give it away. But I've thought about it long and hard, and it's genuinely week by week the choices change. Like they just do, and they I think they should for anyone. Because if you can genuinely pinpoint them 5 beers, something's maybe slightly wrong. But I think we've all got a beer that sticks with us forever as epiphany beer. Outside of that, it's so difficult. It's so bloody difficult. And
the amount, absolutely, yeah, exactly. Yeah. And we sort of don't go down when I ask that question, because it is so difficult. But I thought I'd just switch it around on you. So you've actually really answered that question really well, like avoided it. And it really, that is the epitome of the answer. It's kind of impossible.
I know what I'd say if I was at gunpoint right now. I've got the 5 beers lined up, but I don't think I'd be happy saying them. The only one that's out there in the open that everybody knows is an absolute no-brainer is my cast line, which is Rooster's Brewery Yankee, which is my epiphany beer, and that is the only. If I could only drink one beer again forever, it would be Rooster's Yankee, and that is but that's pretty well known, like fact. Yeah. I think it's a fucking brilliant beer, and it's the beer that got me into doing this. So, yeah.
So I mean, just out of interest, having thrown that question back at you. Obviously, because you do a podcast online, so it's more verbal than what we're doing. We don't really call this a podcast. We just call this like a live chat. But a lot of people have said it's a podcast. It's like a live. So, like, how many sort of these live chats have you done, or is this the first one, or have you just stuck to the podcast kind of model?
I've never done this. This is the first time I've ever been live, like talking to people. Yeah, 100%.
Thank you very much.
I call it the show.
I did the draw for this year's World Cup Final 32 live, and I've still got a piece of paper up there. But other than that, I don't do this live because everything I need it needs editing because it's a fucking. This is shit. Like, it needs editing. No, this is cool.
That's pretty much why we do it live rather than doing the whole podcast model, because we sort of, I mean, it's a lot of work, isn't it? It's like, it's for that hour's podcast, say an hour's podcast, I mean, what's it like, 3 hours work or 4 hours work or something?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. It's not like someone, sends you a message on a Tuesday or Wednesday, say ideas for the show, and you come back and say, no one puts work into this every week. No one.
We do try and do it off the cuff. Like I said earlier, it's like if we just met in a bar, if we just like, you randomly chat to somebody in a bar over beer, that's kind of the model we've gone down in a way. Although that said, Adam, I mean, we met briefly, didn't we, last month on Thursday, live Zoom, which was a lot of fun. It was a really good night.
Look, and to be quite honest, right? You listen to 1,000 podcasts. And I'm a big podcast listener, but I would say I edit at best 10 minutes out of an episode. It's meant to be a real chat. Like, it's meant to be truthful to what me and a brewer or being an owner to chat about. And if I get a bit drunk, I get a bit drunk. If they get a bit drunk, they get a bit drunk. I'm not going to cut out any swearing, any crap, or that is the point of a beer podcast. You're meant to get a bit drunk, like drinking beers and having a good chat. And there are a lot of them out there that just feel a bit too clean, and that's not what Time for a Brew is about. It's about shining a light on independent brewers and having a bloody good time doing it, and that's all I care about. So that's why I love this. I would do this every Saturday night with you guys. I think it's great having a chat.
No, mate. I tend to call this a show. I don't call it a podcast because we're not a podcast, but there is a potential that we might be moving into that. Just simply because we are noticing a difference in figures and ratings since the pubs reopened, and the people are they're going out. And now on a Saturday night, strange that. Which is good at the same time. Excuse me, I'm going to throw my cat off my laptop. And so there is I am looking into, a way of, doing this live show and converting it into a podcast. But mate, I've got to say, you got some really cracking good music coming in on your YouTube. Where do you get that music from?
On what?
On your show, your intro music and stuff. I mean, it's a really well-made podcast. You got a team with you, or is it just you?
It's just me. But like I said, before the podcast, I host a couple of radio shows. I'm a radio DJ in spare time as well. Music's my absolute passion ahead of beer. But that's all a bit of fun. It's so easy to do, and genuinely, if you want to go into it, just reach out and I'll help you sort all that. Like, it's so easy. It genuinely is. It's just as easy as clicking go on Instagram Live to get it to a point that it's commercial. I don't put in that much effort, but it's just good fun. I just love talking to people about beer and their business, and like you said, I mean, whether you've only listened to one episode or 50, it's you've very quickly realised that the beer community, they almost don't want to talk about their own stuff. They want to talk about everyone else that's creating this community, whether it's Thornbridge or Jaipur is the buzzword in this podcast. It's such a fucking brilliant beer. It just lets you appreciate how good the British scene is, and that's I absolutely love that.
You stop me if I'm wrong, but you mentioned you talk about theatre in the podcast, or have I got you mixed up?
We've got it on the blog. We don't talk about it too much in the podcast, but it's theatre's my second baby. Yeah. Oh,
mate, me and you are kindred spirits, mate. I swear to God, mate. I am a big theatre, well, was a big theatre buff. I loved going to shows, mate.
Yeah.
But you ever do mention anything about theatre in your podcast, please tag me. I will be straight on it within seconds.
There's not been a lot to tag in the last 12 months, obviously, but theatre is music's my passion, and music will always hold the main part in my life. But going and watching actors do whatever they do, whether it's we've got some brilliant theatres in York with Theatre Royal, the Grand Opera House, and we get the best of the best. I still remember literally March the 20th last year. So you're talking 2 days before lockdown. Days before lockdown. Ghost Stories came to York. Like, honest to God, I didn't want to go home. I was so scared and like terrified of what I'd just seen. And you kind of look at it and you go, wow, that is phenomenal. That 6 actors have created that in your head, that you genuinely can't go step foot at home. And yeah, theatre is phenomenal. And I write much more about theatre than I talk about theatre, because I just find it a really like cathartic exercise, writing about what I just watched. But yeah, 100% love every single minute of watching what actors do. It's brilliant.
Oh yeah, I love the live experience of it myself. It's not something I used to go to a show once or twice a month, but then I became a dad and that became a bit harder. Mate, I've got plenty of good stories and shows. I used to live in Shepherd's Bush in West London, who completely, the Bush Theatre completely dedicates itself to just new writing and play has never been done before.
Yeah.
I was regularly there, and you know, one of the most memorable shows I ever saw there was actually the worst thing I ever saw there. I can't remember the name of it. It was the same year as Kid People, but it was so shockingly bad. But at the same time, so important to see. I couldn't take my eyes off it. It was like, how can this be so bad? I mean, the reviewer for the Evening Standard refused to give it a star rating. It was that. It was like that, but you know, how theatre talks to people. And I'll tell you what, the last time I was in the National, they didn't up their bar. There were some good beers there, actually. So, it's all good times, man. All good times.
Yeah.
You speak about epiphany beers. If I had an epiphany beer, for me, it'd probably be Titanic Plum Porter.
I finally managed. It's taken me 5 years to do so, but so every year they do the Imperial Reserve version. I finally got one in December. That is sat in my cellar. I'm not going to touch that for 2 years. It's going to sit there, perfectly aging, and I can't wait to finally open that. But it's taken me so long to get hold of it. I finally got it in Christmas last year. But what a beer! Like, yeah. That's I think that's what we've all come to appreciate more with this lockdown. You know, we can get hold of. You know, tonight I drank just even on this 7.2% from Polly's and 8% Dipper from Unbarred, but a cask porter or a cask ale that is brewed just to satisfy a session, and you can just drink pint after pint after pint of it. I will never take that for granted ever again. And the Plum Porter is absolutely one of them.
Yeah, I'm in total agreement with you, but that was an enlightenment beer for me, and I was always into beer. 20 odd years ago, I used to just pick whatever was different in a bar, and you know that was one point of my evolution of beer drinking Plum Porter in the Brewery Louise, sadly no longer around, was just another. And this is the one key thing me and Disco actually agree on, how good Plum Porter was in Brewery Louise. But
we really agree on anything.
Yeah.
Apart from
But you talk about cask, you know, I was out with another beer tuber only last week? Yes. Kent Beer Review, who is going to be on the show next week, everyone. I took him to the Hope in Carshalton, which is a legendary community pub. It was facing closure about 11 years ago. The people around the community putting their own money to get this place back up. And that I had some casts there, and it was like heaven. Absolute fucking heaven. I mean, cask is so precious, and we've got to do our absolute best and just give it support and love, because this is I agree, some people disagree with this, but Roger Prods said, cask beer is the craft beer for the UK, and I get what he's on about. I mean, this guy, I know you're going to disagree with that, but I get what he's on about, and I mean, I will do whatever I can to support cask. I have done in several posts and tweets. I'm just watching my cat because I'm wondering what the hell. Don't land on my laptop, please. But yeah. Yes.
Your cat is like a mini-me for my cat.
Yes.
You've got a mini-me.
Jojo is only 12 weeks old.
Oh, bless.
Yes. And the funny thing, we got word of Jojo. Someone on the street told us about, knew we wanted a cat, and they had a friend who had lots of kittens, and they gave them away and said, here, you can have a girl. I said, oh, it's good, it's a girl. Yeah, great. Took Jojo, take her to the vets yesterday. Vet turns around saying, it's a boy.
Well, then Jojo's not that bad, because Jojo could be a male name as well. But
yeah, and I was happily drinking my Brooklyn lagers on Thursday night, and she was jumping all over it, wanting a sip. I was like, no, he was jumping all over it, wanting a sip. And I'm like, dude, you cannot drink the Brooklyn lager.
So yeah, I've just gone on to the Siren. Roast granola coaster, and again I got this from my local bottle shop beer asylum. Granola brown ale, and I knew it was a brown ale.
Which version? Just the standard, or
just the standard? Yeah, I've seen all the other versions about as well, and I mean, early days in lockdown, I got I got several orders out of Siren, and they're not far away from me, really, just down in the next county, but I haven't got around to getting all the other ones, and so I saw this in my bottle shop beer asylum. I thought, well, I've got to at least try it. Yep. And it is a very brown ale. I didn't.
It looked at it as you were pouring it, to be honest. So
yeah. Again, because I like the darker stuff, I love a brown ale. It's almost see-through.
It is.
Colour.
It's good.
But it tastes good.
What's the crack then? Are you staying on for more? I can get another beer if you want to stay on. Or...
Yeah. Get another, mate. I've got at least two more questions for you.
Yeah, if you want to stay on, I mean, we started off when we did this. You was only allowed an hour on Instagram, so we did an hour, and then they allowed it to extend, and we sort of try and go for like an hour and a half. But there's no real limits here, Adam. To be fair, when you're bored of us, it's fine. But
mate, all I'll be doing tonight is sat drinking in my front room on my own. So it's nice to get people.
Well, it is still Saturday night. We've still got 3/4 an hour of Saturday night, so we generally try and get it down to like an hour and a half, 2 hours, just so that people, when they watch it back, they can still watch it in that sort of video podcast format. But there's no rules. We're just,
if they're still watching, you can break off now, and the rest of it will just be shite. So you break off, and
well, we've been on YouTube live streams with other YouTubers that have gone like 4 hours.
No,
and like
it's just too much, isn't it?
But when you're in that kind of bubble and talking about beer, and also not talking about beer, talking about anything other than beer, time goes so quickly when you've got a beer in the hand.
Yes. So, mate, if you want to grab another beer, go ahead. I do have a few more things to ask you about the competition. So go for it.
Hit us with it. I've still got a bit of this one. Hit us with your questions, and we'll see what happens.
What's been your biggest surprise in the competition this year?
Apart from Green Duck.
Yeah.
Apart from Green Duck, Green Duck are the obvious surprise package. I think it's. I would have to go back to the whole kind of lineup that we had. The biggest surprise across the whole thing is genuinely how much people have embraced it, because the last 2 years people have seen it as a bit of a fad and gone, this is a load of shit. But you're talking Colonel being knocked out early on, like you said before, pressure drop Thornbridge. What a great little competition that they both went for. It's really hard to pick out the biggest shock. The biggest shock is Green Duck, a brewery that nobody's ever heard of before this, reaching the final. And people are pissed off that it's to do with a cat, and it is to do with a cat. But
you'll have to explain that, Adam, because I've seen the references only because I've suddenly started following Green Duck. But it's like a charity thing for like a cat charity, isn't it?
Adam, I swear to God, this whole thing that we've got cats in our show is not.
I just realised the irony of that. We've both got cats. Yeah.
Look. I mean, so Green Duck were drawn when we got down to the actual 32 in a group with Track, North, and Lost and Grounded, three of, in my opinion, the best breweries in the United Kingdom by some distance. And they've had to knock out them. They've had to then knock out Abbeydale. They've had to knock out Pilot, last year's winners, and they've had to knock out Siren to get to where they are today, to knock out Verdant to win this thing. And so they've brewed a beer in collab with, again, I don't know the ins and outs because I've not followed it too much, but what seems to be a cat who lives at Stourbridge train station, who is a bit of a Twitter influencer. This cat continues to retweet, an absolute fair play to the cat. George, the cat, he's called if he's listening today. But I mean, you know what? Just that story of knocking out the people that they have, and seeing how much it hurts people I know. So, like, I know the Siren guys well. I know the Pilot guys well, and I absolutely know the Abbeydale guys so well. And knowing this cat has knocked them out is an absolute surprise. But as long as people have ordered from this brilliant, genuinely brilliant independent brewery, I don't care.
Well, I mean, I put out the tweet the other day. It was like, I'm always going to be Team Siren because we've ordered so many. But if Siren wins against Green Duck, I will definitely order from Green Duck. I mean, obviously that was never going to influence it in the slightest. But it's just the fact that I do generally want to order from Green Duck, having seen beers on their list.
Honestly, it's. I'd have been, and when they messaged me yesterday, and Alex from Green Duck, which we're going to get on the podcast, like me and I will have a chat, like he messaged me knowing that it's become over the last 3 years, not a big deal in beer Twitter, but people get on board with this thing, and it is quite a significant kind of little tournament. Yeah. And he apologised for this Stourbridge cat thing getting involved. I'm glad you've taken it well. I took it pretty well. Don't get me wrong, but you want to see it. It would have been a very different final if it had been a Siren Verdant final. Like, let's face it, and it would have been a very different final if it had been a Thornbridge Siren final, or whatever.
Equally interesting, but for a different sort of perspective, I suppose. But which of those, I guess, up to the quarterfinalists that they've beaten, which do you think is most likely to then get a Green Duck collab beer?
Siren.
Do you think Siren will do that?
100%. I have absolutely no doubt that Siren and Green Duck are already planning that. We've seen some great collabs come out of this competition over the years. I think the Green Duck Verdant one is a little bit too far. I don't think Verdant will do it, but I think Siren know what they're doing, and I think that will happen. That the fact that in the semi they did a bottle share, so that they sent cans to each other and they drank each other's beers whilst it was going on. I think that suggests that there's a bit of a relationship there already. So I think a Green Duck Siren collab won't be too far away.
Geographically, they're quite close as well. Birmingham to Berkshire is not that far, isn't it? I look forward to that.
If I'm honest, I'm a bit surprised Siren haven't. I actually predicted them to do a lot better because it's their 8th birthday. They made a big deal about it on social media and they had a whole live stream event. I thought they would have, come up strong. They actually lost one game, didn't they? And came up runners-up, but still went into the next round.
I mean, 2019 finalists, 2020 finalists, 2021 semi-finalists, they're fuming. They are fuming. And Matt messaged me straight away after they lost to Green Duck and went, "You are a fucking twat. Every year we hate this thing, but we love it as much as we hate it. And we've not even made the fucking final this year." So Siren are going to come back fighting next year, 100%.
Fair play to them. Good luck. They deserve it because, 8 years. They've only been around 8 years. But I became aware of them when they won the GBBF Great British Beer Festival award for Broken Dream.
Yeah, 2018.
I think that's where a lot of people have come unstuck as well. I think Green Duck is some new, Green Duck launched literally a month after Simon did.
Wow.
So they're also 8 years old. And but hey ho.
Hey ho, indeed. My surprise of this competition is pretty much everything, because every prediction has been wrong. I'm surprised Thornbridge went as high up as they did, and Colonel got to where they were. I know they are very reputable breweries, but Colonel have a different kind of business model almost compared to some. Have they been very active in this competition, Colonel?
No.
I don't think Colonel really do the social media so much as all the other people were talking about. They just quietly go about their beers.
I think that was the beauty of Verdant as well. I mean, Verdant didn't get involved. They didn't like a tweet. They didn't do a tweet at all until that semi-final. They got to that point on their beer alone, and it's not even their beer. That was just based on my followers, obviously just voting. And the fact they got to the final, they went for it against Thornbridge. And I think we'd have seen a very different final if it had been Thornbridge Green Duck, because Verdant are very much they're passive tweeters. They're very passive tweeters, and they've kind of just gone for it a bit. And I don't think they realise what's at stake here, which is obviously their name on the most lucrative trophy in craft beer. But I thought Thornbridge are the purveyors of craft beer in this country. There is no better brewery, in my opinion, and they've done a hell of a job to get to the semis. I think they'll be going for it again next year. So we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. The biggest shock to me is that Wylam didn't make at least the semis, because Wylam normally walk this thing, and I think they just forgot to retweet when it came down to it.
I have to admit, again, I've not as much as after Yorkshire in the northeast is probably the next largest amount of beers I've got out of an geographical area. But I've not got around to getting any Wylam I really want to try, like Hickey the Rake and Jake. They are probably in that next sort of niche little group of beers I want to try. Yeah. And Newcastle, what a great city to go for a beer in as well. So yeah, I'm surprised they didn't do. We had this discussion with Rasko in that group that they got out. They did get out of the group.
Well, they got beat by Verdant, didn't they? And then it was yeah.
So it's no surprise you get beaten by the people who are actually in the final. But because me and Rasko, we talked about it, and I said, well, I'm aware because of Jakehead and Hickey the Rake that they're probably the next sort of biggest, because there's certain tiers of levels and hierarchies of this thing a little bit.
Yeah.
I think Weilerman are in that next up and coming group to a certain extent.
Yeah. But still, I've been surprised, and pressure dropped when they went out. I mean, it's not like they lost by a couple of percent. They lost by over 10% of the vote, and I was deeply shocked. I
just think people really underestimate the power of Thornbridge, and Thornbridge Brewery in the UK are a phenomenal, absolute force for what they produce from cask, keg, can, bottle. Thornbridge are outstanding. So they had a tough draw. They had a very tough draw there.
You're getting more compliments, by the way, Adam. I'll just let you know.
More compliments. Can't get over that. Oh, well, you know what I mean? Like, it's I aim to impress.
I mean, this is the first time ever you're getting comments like that. I'm here every week, people. Come on, hello.
Yeah, but there's a reason for that, Rasko. It's more comments than we ever get by one.
I'm the Huey Morgan lookalike,
Get over it. Can't get over it, Adam. I mean, right, so it's JS, so it's not quite is. Someone's called drunk posting that comment, so we'll leave that.
It's 11:30, isn't it?
Give it 5 minutes. I'll give my number away. If you stay on, whoever you are, I'm joking.
Yeah.
So there's,
yeah.
Adam, can I ask? I mean, it's rude to ask a dude how old he is, but what age are you?
Me?
Yeah.
Somewhere between the age of 20 and 50. No, 26.
I mean, because me and Rasko are fucking old dudes now, so like, it's great. It's great. Like we don't really talk about age, but
hey, look, beer is beer. Beer is beer, whatever age you are.
You're talking about coming from like a car scale perspective. Well, me and Rasko come out of only probably like 4 or 5 years ago. We're quite late to the craft beer kind of side of it. So, I mean, again, you're talking about like your car scales that you're talking about there. It's great for us. Like
there was a time when I mentioned craft to you. You'd sneer at it and say, "Oh no, please, no craft." I mean, it was all about the real ale.
I don't deny that. I eschewed beer for some time because I was still on the car scale, on the real ale kind of side of things. And it's only the last 4 or 5 years I've sort of gone over that side of because there's been such a transition as well. There's like a like real ale has sort of really slid into
there's no difference.
Sort of transition area of it.
There's no difference. Real ale is craft beer. Craft beer is real ale.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
It's just a marketing term, if I'm honest. I know I get a bit cynical about marketing things, but they are necessary to a successful business. But hype is hype, and hype isn't necessarily bad, if you get me. I'll do a video on that at one point. Now that we can revamp our videos. Lovely video you did, Disco, by the way.
Well, this week, the reply to all the fucking cheesy crisp beers coming out of Yorkshire.
Yes.
Oh, for fuck's sake.
Yes.
I don't know if you saw it, Adam. All the cheese crisp beers and the fish crisp beers this week. I did a little thing in response to a favourite beer review of ours on YouTube, Jaco Beer, and he was the first one to do that North Did you try them? Did you try the Northern
Monk April Fools?
Yeah, I had both of them last night.
Oh, really? What did you think?
Fair enough. We'll leave it at that.
So I thought, like, genuinely, and if anyone from Northern Monk ever watched, I thought the cheese and onion one was the worst thing that has ever passed my lips. Like, by some distance, that is the worst thing that has ever had the pleasure of being in my mouth.
By taste or aroma, or both?
The whole experience was just wrong. It smelled like cheese and onion crisps. And to be fair to Northern Monk, like, what they've done is they have created cheese and onion crisp lager. It hit the nail on the head in terms of flavour. I am not a cheese fan, just full stop. I'm going to throw it out there, which is pretty controversial, so I don't eat cheese and anything. But yeah, it didn't go down well. I think, social distancing aside, I think my 150ml little bit that I had down the pub, I think that must have gone through 15 people down the pub, and still no one wanted more than about 5 mils of it, because it was just disgusting. It really was.
So I mean, I saw it on April Fool's Day, and I thought, oh, that's fun. I must have like completely. I've got this like little thing where I've just completely missed the whole substrata of it. I didn't realise that last year with Northern Monk's April Fool's last year was that one, the Aunt Bessie's one. I didn't realise that was an April Fool's. I thought that was a genuine collab.
So, yeah.
And I missed that, and I bought that. I saw that come out, and I bought it straight away. I thought that's insane, that's brilliant, and I really enjoyed them. And so this year I saw that Seabrook's Crisps collab, and I thought, oh, that's really funny, that's great. I didn't realise it. I knew it was an April Fool's, but I didn't realise that April Fool's was fooling people into thinking it was an April Fool's when in fact it was a real fucking thing.
Well, the year before that was the Henderson's Relish one. That was fucking disgusting as well.
Really? I was talking about that last night. I like Henderson's Relish, being a soft southerner. I don't see it very much down here, but I will always try it if I see it. Like, sometimes it's in Tesco's down here, but not often. But yeah. I didn't realise, was that an April Fool's one as well?
Yeah.
I thought that was just a genuine beer. So it wasn't until this, like a few weeks ago, when I saw that Seabrook's Crisp one, and I thought, oh, that's a April Fool. But the April Fool was the fact that it was an April Fool, and in fact it was a real thing. But I missed the bit where they put it out that it's now live on the website. Otherwise, I would genuinely have bought that. And then I saw, like I say, our friend Jaco Beer had done the first, as far as I could tell, the first review of it. And I'm like, oh shit, that was actually a thing. And I went on the website, and obviously it was fucking sold out. And everybody else then after that did it. Otherwise, I would have bought it. And I saw, well, Trembling Madness had some. And I looked, by the time Trembling Madness had it, I'm like, I'm not actually going to buy that, because I've heard some odd reviews of it. And I'm like, I want to try it, but I won't.
You've not missed anything. You've genuinely not missed anything.
But what I did, in response to Jaco Beer's like first one about, and then everybody else's, like, I did a video like it's up on the YouTube, and it was like a Western style. I put the that soundtrack of the Good, Bad, and the Ugly over it, and like I see your cheesy, fucking smelly crisp beer, and I raised you an actual crisp beer, and I did a review of Heretic, because you can get like salt and black pepper crisps. So I got some funny, but so I did that in response to it, and I went down pretty well. I thought it was quite good.
Well, that's all good. All right, I don't know what to say now. Adam, what's your most influential beer? Oh, have you said that actually? Yeah, you have. But I'm out of stuff to say, fellas.
Oh no, that's the other question I was going to ask about. Adam, you said about music and DJing earlier. What's your musical influences, especially whilst drinking beer?
that is so varied. That is not something you can answer quickly. I'm a pop punk guy at heart. I'm an indie rock guy at heart. But I mean, I think the last 2 years, the band that got me through everything, whether it's been absolutely off my tits or just having a chill out, is The Offspring. The Offspring are a band that absolutely get me through life, and them kind of bands, The Offspring, Green Day, Less Than Jake, Real Big Fish, like it's that kind of American happy, just I'm drinking a beer from Unbarred right now. It's similar music. It's unbarred. It's just there's no rules. Just have a bit of fucking fun with guitars and saxophones and trumpets and do what the hell you want. And that's kind of my ethos in music as well as beer. So ask me on another day, I'd say Oasis. Ask me on another day, I'd say Stereophonics or Shed 7. But
I had a light bulb moment there. I'm just going to check that because you said The Offspring.
I've seen every single one of those bands, mate. They're back. Well, I saw them over 20 years ago.
I've got a beer for you. Sorry, Rasko, I've got a beer for you. If you say The Offspring, have you seen Beer Brothers of Preston? They have a beer called Pretty Fly for a White Stout.
No, I've not. That's a new one to me.
I've got it in the cupboard. There's one there. They did a Daft Punk IPA. I don't know if you can see that.
Nice.
But they've got one. Yeah, Pretty Fly for a White Stout. That's the Daft Punk one. But they do a lot of music. They've also got a red ale called Simply Red, but probably less said about that the better. But check out Beer Brothers Preston.
I'm gonna on the back of that. Yeah. But that's my music. That's my influence.
You talk about Offspring, mate. You're giving me a musical flashback. I've only seen Offspring once, and that was at Reading '99, and they were just under the bill, under the Red Hot Chili Peppers.
Nice.
And playing the Sunday evening at Reading on the main stage is the hardest venue potentially ever, because the whole audience is exhausted. Everyone, and this was the 90s still, man. Come on. Everything you've heard about the 90s is true. The fact that I remember it is, breaking 90s doctrine. I mean, if you remember the 90s,
you weren't fucking there, man.
There you go. So someone trying to steal my light at the moment, but yeah. But when they played Self-Esteem, I mean that is one magical moment. That song really, really, really hit me. I've never seen them since, and it was that was the first time I ever went to gigs. Reading '99. My first ever band I ever saw live was Apollo 440.
Nice.
And then, well, some say, but but it was great. Less Than Jake. I saw them in the London Astoria, and they weren't even the main act, or were they? Because I know I saw them the day I finished my A-levels in London Astoria in year 2000. Whoa. And they were supported. King Prawn were at the bottom of the bill. And nice. King Prawn aced them all. And this is when King Prawn had their original bassist. And King Prawn absolutely aced them all. The Astoria is my favourite venue ever. Nothing will come close to the Astoria, and it's no longer around.
Less Than Jake put out a live record from the Astoria from like 2002, maybe. It was literally a live record on vinyl that they put out from that venue.
Wow. Oh my God. The last band I ever saw in the Astoria, I believe was, I'm going to say Fear Factory, but I'm not entirely 100% sure. And there was no encore act because then they had to go into club mode. It was a Saturday night. There was no encore, and I was a bit disappointed for that. It's a shame that the Astoria ended on such a bad note, but for me, I've got much love for it. Much love to it. Bands I'm into at the moment, I don't listen to music unless it was made in the 90s. If I'm honest, I'm that kind of an arsehole. I'm really into
the music about at the moment, Rasko.
No, there isn't.
There is.
No, there isn't. It's all about KLF for me. I'm going through a big KLF thing at the moment.
KLF.
And that is it for me. Yeah, I'm enjoying my American Brown from Anne's Patch and Hop Day. It's been on the show before. It'll be on the show again. It's getting a Beer of the Year nomination. It might win it. Who knows? Tune in for the end of the year show. Tune in for June time or July time when we announce what the Beer of the Years are so far. And I'm sure Disco's getting his list together, isn't he?
Heretic is on my Beer of the Year list because I've ordered so much of it. Yeah, I've got 2 or 3 on the Beer of the Year list already.
Yeah. So I bet you don't get that in a podcast, Adam.
No, that's what happens when you get cheap and it falls over. I don't know. I didn't even move. Well, I'm going to do this before everything falls apart. Talking about to finish the
Pilot.
I've got a Pilot North Sea Stout. I got one order in from Pilot last year, and this is the last of them. So
wonderful. So,
oh, that looks very deep and rich.
Yeah.
Rasko, cover me, man. I'm gonna have to go and make some room for it.
Go ahead, mate. This is absolutely gorgeous. The American Brown. Nice smell, potent smell of I want to say coffee in it. It's kind of giving a coffee aroma to it. Bit of punch, bite on the back of the throat. Delicious. Absolutely delicious. I'm not sure what makes an American Brown. But if this is what American Brown has to offer, I'm going to look it up some more.
What ABV are you talking?
It is 5.2%.
Right.
Thanks for asking. I completely forgot to mention that. But
So, did it pour like? So I had the last American Brown I had was from a brewery in Newcastle called Full Circle. Went down very well, but it poured very thin. Is it fairly thin for a brown? Yeah.
It is, mate. It is.
Yeah.
It's not.
Yeah.
And it's going down. We've just had a bit of a bite on the tongue. It would just travel down so smoothly. But that bit of a bite just gives it that much more recognition, which is why I'm giving it a Beer of the Year nomination. Will it win it? I don't know. It's going to be a tough one. I haven't got that many on my list as compared to last year. But, the first time ever I've got a sour. I'm a big sour skeptic. So the first time ever I have a sour from Pomona Island, a passion fruit sour. And the reason I like it, it's not like your average sour. I don't really like sours or ciders. This changed my concept. Yes.
Fair enough.
Yeah, that's that. All right, mate. We're getting close to 2 hours now.
Yeah, it's been a long one.
Yes, mate. So unless anyone's got anything to add or say your piece now. I'm deeply impressed. Adam, I love your musical content. I love your theatre content. I love your podcast. Keep doing what you're doing. If you ever need help or research or anything, look us up. We'll sort you out with some Perryvale. We'll be in touch about that. If you're in London, look us up, man. Are you are you down for the London Craft Beer Festival by any chance?
Yeah.
You are? Oh, look me up, man. I'm there. I'm there all weekend.
It's in Rasko, yeah. So.
I'll be there. Like I said, guys, honestly, I love the content. So any Saturday night you want a guest to join you and drink a few beers, I'll honestly just pop on, have a good chat. I'm there anytime. So.
Superb. It's good to see you, Adam. Thank you so much for popping on tonight. It's been enlightening, entertaining, and a good few beers. But yeah, anytime. Absolutely anytime. Superb.
Good fun.
Thanks to... Go ahead, mate. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, good fun. It's good to chat beer with people, not in a... I don't have to edit it tomorrow morning. That's lovely. That's absolutely lovely. Just chatting about beer. I love it.
Yeah.
Love it.
And I always say also thank you for everybody who's looking in and will look in afterwards when we post this up. Yeah. And also if you're looking in on YouTube, because now we're posting these on YouTube, so if you don't mind, Adam, next week we'll post this up on YouTube as well, because Rasko's found a way to do that. So if you're happy with us posting you up on YouTube.
Thank you to anyone who said I was beautiful or fit or whatever the punter was saying. I don't know who you are, but I'll take it. You know, on a Saturday night, that's a little bit of affirmation that I wasn't expecting to get. So thank you.
Well, you're an absolute star. It's been a great chat and a great few beers. So no, thank you very much, Adam.
Yeah.
They're still watching, by the way. They're still watching. So thank you for putting a competition together, mate. It's been it's given us a lot to talk about. I preferred it than the actual real World Cup. So, thank you, and we'll leave it always on our trademark note. Believe enough to lose control, everyone. Adios.
Do I get that number? Cool. Right, cheers, guys. We'll see you soon.
Thanks, Adam.
Take it easy, brother.
Superb.
Superb.